Hello and welcome to my review of Crushing It with Gary Vee. So I picked up this book about a week ago when a friend recommended it. We were having a business conversation and I knew who Gary Vee was, but I'm not a loyal follower or anything. I'd seen a handful of his YouTube videos before and I generally understood what he was about, but I'd never read any of his books, and this was a really great introduction to Gary Vee. If you have seen any of his content, it's probably no surprise that Gary is totally unapologetic and unsympathetic to anyone who's not working 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, and hustling. Reading this book was very inspirational. What Gary does in Crushing It is he shares stories from other entrepreneurs who had read his first book, Crush It, back in 2009, and used the knowledge he shared in that book to create their own personal brands through social media. What Crushing It does is follow up on a lot of those success stories and share how people were able to use Gary's knowledge and Gary's advice to create a personal brand for themselves. He also updates his knowledge and information because obviously a lot has changed in the social media world in the last 9 years. Gary says in Crushing It that when he first wrote Crush It, there weren't enough examples of people who had had success on social media. It was just too early. The many stories that he shares serves as motivation and inspiration, and the whole book is really Gary's updated roadmap for personal branding on social media. In the first section of the book, Gary talks about what really matters for personal branding on social media. He talks about these pillars, which are intent, authenticity, passion, patience, speed, work, and attention. And then the last but most important pillar is content, and Gary devotes an entire chapter to this one. One of the most important things I learned right away from Gary is that you actually have to produce tailored content for each social media platform that you post on. If you follow me on Instagram, you can see that I already made this mistake. I've made a YouTube video introducing this idea of challenging myself to read a book a week last week. I posted that video on YouTube, but when I put it on Instagram, I had to chop it up into 3 different sections because Instagram has a 1-minute time limit on their video posts. I realize now this was wrong. You can go check out my Instagram and see a tailored Instagram video that I made this week about Crushing It. Another really important message about content that Gary gets across in this book is don't create, document. He says you don't just have to have the ability to create unique creative content, you are the unique creative content. He says let people learn who you are and then watch them develop into who you want to become. He also says just because you suck right now doesn't mean you're always going to suck. When I read this, it made me think of Casey Neistat. He's actually one of the people giving Gary praise in the back of his book. If you're not familiar with who Casey Neistat is, I'll link his YouTube channel below in the description. He is one of the biggest influencers on the YouTube platform, and he is a master at personal branding through YouTube. And Casey posted a video a couple months ago about filmmaking, his passion. And this is what he says: make again, make something terrible, make it slightly better, make it a lot better, and make it great. That one line, make something terrible, really spoke to me. And I'm trying to focus on that in everything I'm doing in my life and in business right now. It's so much more important to just start and do and make something terrible. You can make it better later as your skills develop and as you learn. Then Gary goes on to talk about the reasons why most people will never take any of his advice in this book. And it's because of fear. Gary says there's 3 types of fear. Fear of failure, fear of wasting your time, and fear of seeming vain. Gary says the only thing you really need to give to yourself in order to crush it is permission. Get over all of these fears and just do. Go out and make something terrible. The book really gets good when Gary starts breaking down each social media platform and giving you practical steps that you can use to become an influencer on those platforms and increase your personal branding. In general, Gary says there's 2 ways you're going to do this: by the smart use of hashtags and by directly messaging people, contacting them personally, and offering them value in exchange for their attention. And he reminds you that this process is going to take years, not months. He goes through 8 social media mediums: Musical.ly, Snapchat, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, podcasts, and voice firsts, which is Google Home and Alexa. So because this video is on YouTube, I'm going to focus just on what Gary recommends to develop your personal brand on this platform on YouTube. So Gary says that the platform of YouTube has the chance of changing your life faster than any other platform. These days, YouTube is all about vlogging, and you can vlog about anything. Gary says you should never decide for yourself whether you or the things that you're interested in aren't worth vlogging about. Let the market decide. This is where Gary's advice about document and don't create really applies. You can produce tons and tons of boring content, but that's okay. Because if the rest of the world agrees that it's boring content, you're going to get that feedback. And then you can move on to something else. Gary talks about in your videos how you have to make sure to optimize your headlines, your tags, your descriptions, and optimizing your channel with the right banner, your channel description, and your channel trailer. You've probably seen I've made a few changes to my YouTube channel based on Gary's advice. Gary continues to offer lots of stories as examples of how people who read his first book, Crush It, have implemented the strategies that he put out in that first book to succeed on social media platforms today. And Gary makes sure to emphasize the importance of staying relevant. He says if you don't spend every day playing offense, updating your content, learning about new platforms, it doesn't matter how successful or how popular you become. Someday you're going to end up playing defense. If you are someone who wants to develop your personal brand or give something a try like vlogging or podcasts, I highly recommend checking out Gary V's Crushing It. It's got a lot of really good practical information, and why not learn from the best? Gary V is the king of personal branding on social media, and he lays it out exactly what he did to get there. This week, I'm starting a new book. It's called The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. Transform your life, your work, and confidence with everyday courage. My wonderful girlfriend Sarah bought this book for me. It was recommended to her by a friend of hers. She's actually just started a YouTube channel showing you how to cook awesome vegan food. I'll link her channel below. You should definitely check that out if you want to see some awesome food and learn some great recipes. I'll be posting my review in 1 week from now of the 5-Second Rule. In the meantime, please continue to comment. Let me know if there's any books that you want me to read. And please subscribe, hit the bell button so you get a notification every time I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week with my review of the 5-Second Rule.